Welcome, everyone, to Progressive Discussions. I'm your host, James P. Madonna. I'm with my co-host, Damian the Dissenter Owens. And Sunday is here already. It is the pandemonium end of summer 2020. It is the beginning of September. And the title of the show is... it's a mad Trumpenstein world. Okay, followed by mystical forecasts. And I had to go get the divining rods because I forgot to get them. That's why you didn't see my mug for a minute. But anyway, how are you? How was your week, Damian the Dissenter Owens?
Well, my week is okay, I guess. Could have been better, but I did do a little bit of door dashing. I do have a lot more for this upcoming week, thankfully. I go with my follow up to my PCP on Wednesday the 16th. And I have noticed ever since I had that basically domino effect of a really bad allergy day plus a really bad asthma attack, and then it triggered an anxiety attack all at once. I've developed this really weird shortness of breath and like this really weird cough, and it happens at the most inopportune random moments. And there's really no rhyme or reason as to what triggers it. It can just happen, but when it hits, oh man, I have to go immediately for my inhaler and all that. But that's just the physiological effects I can already feel over what happened. And I'm still kind of having a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of cold sweats and shakes, and and I'm almost a little bit like reliving what happened. And I've tried putting stuff near my face like a mask or a face shield. My body just goes right into fight or flight mode and just like, no way.
Yeah, well, if somebody has a respiratory affliction, that's a good reason to not to wear it. Now, to give you an example of how insane people are becoming, I see some older women in my area. Now, get this. They're outside with a mask and a face shield over the mask.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's just absolute horse shit.
Why don't they just put on a spacesuit like they're going to do a spacewalk? I mean, put an old-fashioned diver's helmet on or something. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. If you ever see the face shield? They do a pretty good job of covering your whole face down to
Mhm.
here, I'd say. You know, from the eyebrows down to past your chin. Why do these women need to have a full mask and a face shield? I mean, come on, give me a break.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's getting insane. Like what I was telling you about what happened the other night, where a whole family was kicked off the flight and the whole flight was shut down, all just because the family did not put a mask on a infant child.
An infant.
Yeah, an infant. That's why I'm telling you. You know, these have become like a cult. It's like a cult of personality around this item now. That now it is the new normal. It's a fashion statement. It's a cult, and that's why I've been so oppositional to it, because seeing how it was early on and now what it's turned into, I was right all along. And plus, the video I sent you last night of that doctor's an anesthesiologist who took a vape to show exactly how and why the masks do not work and how they just go right through. And then the picture I showed you where they put a size comparison as to how small this virus really is, and how when you looked at it under a microscope, that none of the masks even provide even remotely close to protective or any kind of protection against it, where they just go right on through. That now basically it's a muzzle. And my last point to prove that is, thousands of years ago they were able to prove that if you wanted to demoralize, degrade, and submit and take away individuality, the best way to do it is to put something over the mouth and the eyes and strip the person of the individuality. And that's what we see now. But that's the way it was going. Now more and more people are taking them off. They're not wearing them. They're not living their lives in fear. They're not bowing and cowering to this.
Yeah, well, what was that? I told you that I was walking home on my street down the sidewalk, and a millennial female that had no mask on was walking from a distance the opposite way on the sidewalk, and I had the mask on. I pulled it up, and she went out into the street, at least 100 feet away from me, walked right down the middle of my street, and went back on the sidewalk about maybe 50 feet behind me. I mean, like she was so paranoid and freaked out that the thought of her walking by another human being on a wide sidewalk that had a mask on, and she had none, and she still felt the need. This neurotic bitch had the need to go out in the street and had to be like 100 feet away from me, and get back on the sidewalk. You know, I mean, talk about a mad world. Yeah, it's a mad new normal so-called world where people are going out of their minds. Because if she doesn't have a mask and I had one, why does she have the need to go out in the street and be 100 feet away from a person with a mask, and she doesn't have one? You know what? One of these days, there's going to be a lot of people having a lot of public arguments and shouting matches. Mark my word, when people start doing shit like that and offending other people, there's going to be a lot of public arguments between strangers. Because I could have said something. I could have said, nice mask that you have to be over 100 feet away from me, huh? Yeah, I should have said that, you know? I mean, it's insane. It's insane. You know, now with Donald Trump recently, you know, first he insults military personnel by calling them losers and suckers, the ones that have died in the war. Meanwhile, he's a rich kid. He got out of Vietnam for, I don't know, having flat feet or some excuse. So anyway, he's putting down military personnel. All right, they're suckers and losers. Okay, now he offended the Pentagon. Okay, and now it's aside from trying to destroy the United States Postal Service, so the mail-in ballots would not succeed. He was caught on audio saying before the pandemic lockdown, admitting how serious COVID-19 is compared to the influenza virus and other viruses that come and go. Okay. Oh, and he was admitting how contagious it is, and the mortality rate is higher than the flu. And then he downplays it. Then he says he takes it lightly, and now he's back to taking it seriously. He's flip flopping like Anthony Fauci, back and forth, flip flop. So he was caught on audio, and he just you just don't know what other insane comments this man is going to come out with. I mean, he really is nuts. I mean, it's beyond just narcissistic and egomaniacal, and the corruption. Of course, all of his friends are underhanded, corrupt people, whether it be the late Epstein, all of them are underhanded and have corruption, have corrupt skeletons in their closet that either fell out or are partially hanging out. This guy that he hired as head of the United States Postal Service, DeJoy, he's not giving anybody any joy. DeJoy looks like freaking Quasimodo. He has a deranged, demented look on his face. He looks like a racketeer, and this is very interesting. Let me see if I can.
Right.
Let me see if I can do it with this. Hold on.
Right, but I know what you're getting at and what you're saying, but interestingly, remember when I said that the Democrats and Republicans are not going to come to an agreement when it comes to stimulus? Looks like that is actually going to be the case, surprisingly, because there were different versions of the stimulus introduced by the Democrats and Republicans, and of course, it was voted right along party lines. All the Democrats voted for their stuff, and the Republicans voted against it, and vice versa. And now Donald Trump is doing whatever he can to try to pass everything by executive order. And, as I've said and the cards have shown, that's only what's going to happen, what's going to cause him to win the election. But when you go back and you look at everything that Donald Trump has said from the very beginning to now, how he's been flip-flopping, but yet other people have been flip-flopping. In the very beginning, Donald Trump said that, okay, yeah, this could potentially be bad. We need to do this, we need to do that. The Democrats at first said absolutely no to it. Then there was the reversal where, Trump decided to ease up, and then all of a sudden the Democrats started to be very restrictive and anal about everything. And then now that's kind of been the case when it comes to it. And here's something very interesting I also noticed. Donald Trump surprisingly was able to pull a little bit of reverse psychology on the Democrats. And you're probably thinking, wait, Donald Trump, reverse psychology? How is he smart enough to do that? Here's how he did it. And it actually didn't require a whole lot of intelligence. Anyone could have done it, they just thought of it. You know how the Democrats and all the rest of them were pushing so hard for the vaccine that that's all they want to say is the cure for this. But when Donald Trump started going on the vaccine bandwagon, you notice the Democrats are starting to back off a little bit. And even Kamala Harris said, I don't know if I would trust a Trump vaccine. So he got him to do a little bit of reverse psychology and kind of brought something out that should have been brought up from the very beginning. So I got a good chuckle and a good laugh out of that.
Well, I did notice that the Democrat controlled House of Representatives has been way too quiet this year. I thought they were going to be jumping up and down, screaming, waving their arms around, their fists, and ranting and raving. No, they're like, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, very soft spoken, and then Nancy Pelosi pulls that hypocritical behavior of demanding that a salon open up just for her to get her hair done, and waltzes in without a mask. She walks in without a mask, and she insisted that the salon, which was supposed to be closed according to California law at the time, she demanded it would open just for her. Now, she's a Democratic elitist that is a hypocrite, obviously. So I have no use for either of the two parties. The only thing is, like my late grandfather used to say, who was a very devoted socialist, he says, with the Democrats, they'll throw you a few crumbs, which is what they do with their social programs. They barely keep your nostrils above water. They don't really help you completely. He says the Democrats will throw you a few crumbs, but a Republican will give you absolutely nothing. Nothing.
Yep.
Even if you're homeless, even if you're on a park bench. And he was right. And he said socialism is the only way to do anything for the middle class and the poor, which is the bottom 98%. Now I want you to see something. Let me see if it shows up here. Let me see. Oh, look at that. It did show up. Okay. Now this guy DeJoy. Let's see. The news cycle will move on, but don't lose sight of what's happening to the Postal Service. Trump's Postmaster General has up to $75 million invested in Postal Service competitors. DeJoy has a direct financial interest in the failure of the United States Postal Service. Okay, Robert Reich, economist, pass it on if DeJoy must resign. Now, interesting, $75 million invested in competitors of the U.S. Postal Service. No wonder why he wants to dismantle it and destroy it. You see how Jesse Ventura was right. Just follow the money trail. Just follow the money trail.
Oh yeah, he's not wrong about that. But at this point, the way that they're just bickering back and forth at each other over this and over that, they're both going to engage in election fraud because they both have high risk, high stakes, high gains for both sides in this. So for them, it doesn't matter whether you're on the Trump side or the Biden side or the third way side, that we really do see what this election will really hold. What happens now will actually define what the next 100 years or more will be.
Yeah. Well, we know the DNC has rigged the primaries twice and is very corrupt. I mean, they did it in 2016 and they did it now in 2000.
Yeah, they did it now. But what you were saying about the Democrats being oh so quiet, yeah, now we start to see why they were being extremely quiet. More and more keeps coming about the coup they have planned for Donald Trump. And now we kind of see who one of the big masterminds who is going to do this, and they still might do it. But General Mattis has now been outed for being the main proprietor of this conspiracy. But Nancy Pelosi is also in on it as well. And then Joe Biden is in on it to a point, but at this particular point, I don't really know if Joe Biden really knows 100% as to what he's getting involved with and what really is going on, because his mental capacity at this point is, if I had to guess, he's probably had a series of strokes, and he either has Alzheimer's or he has dementia or both, or his speech is really messed up. I'm even surprised how he can even say even just a little bit of words coherently. But now we got, yeah, General Mattis, we got Nancy Pelosi. I don't really know what Chuck Schumer's thinking, but Nancy Pelosi, with her being the Speaker of the House, she does have a lot of pull because for her, like I say, if Joe Biden wins, he steps down. Well, Harris would get in, and then Pelosi would be right behind her. So we'd have a female president and a female vice president.
There you go. The
So,
feminists will be tickled to death about that.
right. Well, that's just the tip of it. That's partly why the impeachment failed. Was yeah, there definitely were impeachable offenses that you could have brought on by Donald Trump, but the people who were perpetuating the impeachment, their intentions were far from honorable, and that's one of the biggest reasons why it failed. But I know this one sounds a little bit out there, and I still think it is out there to a point. But there's just one thing that you kind of have to take a step back and scratch your head and raise your eyebrows and go, that might be just purely coincidental, but then yet maybe not so. It's amazing. We first heard about COVID 19 in late 2019, and we didn't really hear a lot about it, in January and in February. But as soon as the impeachment went south, that's when the whole COVID-19 thing just exploded. Like I said, coincidental, possibly, but you really kind of can't just say there can't be no connection. There has to be something because how can it be so small and minute, and then when this doesn't go according to plan, this just explodes?
Yeah, very interesting indeed. Now, I want to get into what I mentioned on Mike Hilton's show a little earlier, just before this, about how the Republicans like to blame absolutely everything in life on Democrats. In this case, the ravaging, out of control wildfires in the Pacific Northwest, all the northwestern states. Now it's affecting several states. Now, their excuse is, well, because the Democrats had to protect certain species of animals in their natural habitat, like the spotted owl, they hurt the logging industry, and there's no forest management. How the hell can you hire a sufficient amount of people to rake dried dead leaves and branches and pine needles within a vast amount of territory, which encompasses Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, parts of Utah, some parts of Northern Nevada? That's not realistic. Forest management. So the climate change deniers are using the excuse that, well, we can't be protecting animals. We have to protect industry, business, the economy. Well, guess what? Loggers couldn't do a damn fucking thing about all the dead branches and leaves and dead pine needles, dry pine needles. It's climate change. It's a bunch of fucking bullshit. As Spock would say, okay, it is illogical for the logging industry and for those states to hire enough people to clean up the dry debris caused by climate change that they deny. You're talking about an enormous amount of square miles. It's not going to happen. Even if you employ, they're slave labor anyway. Even if you had the inmates and all the prisons go out there picking up dead branches and raking dry pine needles. It's not enough. It's a vast amount of territory. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Hey, could they eat money when the shit hits the fan and the planet Earth is dying? Are they going to be able to eat their multi-billions for food? I know they have bunkers. You know, some of them bought missile silos in the United States. If they went down in a bunker, how much food and clean water could they possibly have to make them go the distance and survive? Eventually, they're going to have to come to the surface. You know, I mean, unless the bunker is the size of a warehouse, which I doubt, and they have hydroponic gardens down there, but you still need electricity. Are we going to have, is the grid going to be operating when the shit hits the fan? Are they going to have enough electricity, the elitists in their bunkers, all the way at the bottom of the missile silo? I highly doubt it. Water purification. Are they going to have enough? I highly doubt it. They're full of shit. What's going to happen is that listen. I watch paranormal caught on camera on the Travel Channel, and people with their high definition, high megapixel smartphones are taking really good video these days of anything and everything. And let me tell you, these UFO videos are getting, something fell. As soon as I said UFO, paranormal, something fell off the wall. Oh, shit. They're getting more clear, more vivid, easier to, what's the word? To analyze the details of, scrutinize than ever before. Every week there's new videos of extraterrestrial visits and spacecraft of all different shapes and colors moving in a specific pattern and then vanishing. Interdimensional travel, perhaps. Wormhole, yeah. But when the shit hits the fan and this planet is on its way out, I wouldn't be surprised if extraterrestrial beings would, just step in and take over, because they're out there. Because I'm seeing new video every week. They're definitely out there. But these multi-billionaires, especially the ones in government, are so fucking corrupt and obsessed with greed. They're so stingy. Their God is money, and their church is the bank. And it's an obsession. It's a cult. You hit the nail on the head before. It's an actual cult. Even their religion is a cult. Well, most Christian denominations are cults because they have man-made laws. They have deities that they have not been able to prove exists. So they have these. Every church has their own man-made laws. Like the Mormons believe that some guy named, what was his name, John Smith, was approached by the angel Moroni, Boney Moroni.
I think so. Or
yeah, Boney Moroni, like the song, do the mashed potato, do the alligator. Yeah, there's an angel named Moroni or something. So he was approached like Muhammad was approached by Archangel Gabriel. And so they believe this guy, John Smith. That's like you and me telling all our friends and family and everybody, hey, an angel by the name of Joe Palooka has been visiting me, giving me information, lots of information. And then you try to start a cult based on that, and it turns into a religion. Well, these people send lots of money to these con artists and cult leaders, like the TV evangelists that, like Joel Osteen, that didn't want to let homeless people from one of the hurricanes in his church, to have a place to sleep. And then he changed his mind because he was under pressure from the media. I don't know if it was Katrina or another one that hit New Orleans, but he didn't want to open up his mega church. Oh, but he's a big time Christian, a big time Christian. Oh yeah, you're even the Bible warns about those that are that are ravenous wolves in sheep's clothing. Beware of the deception. And this is what we have now. Okay, Ronnie S. Ronnie S is here. Ronnie S says Damien has some great points tonight. Yeah, yes he does. Yes he does. And I love his Fidel Castro-like beard. It's growing in nice. Okay.
Right.
Now, yeah, what were you going to say?
What I was going to say is just a quick point on that is it is possible to protect the environment while at the same time making sure that, people have employment for jobs, that the economy is taken care of. We don't have to just focus purely on 100% this aspect or 100% of that aspect. The idea is trying to find the nice ideal balance between the two of them. I mean, granted, yeah, both are equally important because you kind of need the environment in order to make sure that you have a sustainable ecosphere. But at the same time, you also have to have jobs, you have to have businesses, and you have to have an economy to make sure you do have a good standard of living. So both kind of play off each other.
Yeah, the logging industry, they replant all the time. I don't have a problem with the logging industry because they do constantly replant the lumber that they cut down, and you can have a sustainable harvesting of certain things. Not like trying to destroy the entire Amazon rainforest to sell the wood to make money off the wood. Not that, but it's like fishermen. You're not gonna overfish a certain species because you happen to be greedy and you want to catch all of them. And then the following season, the catch is lower and lower and lower. It's the same thing with everything else. You've got to now in Oregon where they have these fires also. There's the one town in Oregon that has where people bought abandoned warehouses and they converted them into hydroponic cannabis farms. Interesting. I saw the documentary. Hydroponic with the grow lights, and let me tell you, all these gourmet cannabis plants, they're growing really big, and they're supplying the whole state. Now I don't know if that town was overtaken by the fires or not, because that would be some real medicinal smoke coming from that fire. But it's very possible to have a self-sustaining industry where you don't get greedy and shoot yourself in both feet if you're a part of a certain industry. It could be anything. Like I just use fishing as an example because that's what the commercial crabbers did over here in the Jersey Shore. They got greedy and they started keeping the females with the eggs, the females with the egg sacs. There's by law that they're really supposed to throw them back, but they were taking everything. And guess what? There's less crabs, less crabs, less crabs. Now down south, they got blue crab too. There's plenty of them because it's not famous for crabbing like Maryland is, and Chesapeake Bay, which goes into Virginia, or up by here, in Jersey, but down there, it's not really a big thing. So the crabs are pretty big. and there's lots of them. But but it can happen to any industry. Mining, it can be mining, unless it's a scam, like the De Beers mining company in South Africa, where there's so many diamonds that they're finding that they have to control the exporting of the diamonds to keep the prices up, because there's really that many diamonds. It's not a precious gem so much anymore, unless you get super clarity. You have to have a high grade, but other than that, they're common. So supply and demand kind of thing, I guess. Now the forest management is ridiculous. There's just too much territory burning right now to say, to be Mr. Hindsight and say, oh, forest management could have prevented these forests from catching on fire. So that's pretty much it. Eric told me he's starting his new job tomorrow morning, so he couldn't make it tonight. That's understandable. It's going to be his first day on a supposedly a very good job that he landed. And I hope that pacifies him.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, we shall see.
It is what it is.
Yes, it is what it is.
You can't go by first day on the job either, because you gotta give it a job at least a couple weeks before you know if you like it.
Yeah. For me, I could probably tell if I'm really going to like the job within about. Usually, for me, it would be within about the first 5 days. That's usually when I could tell if I was really going to like the job within about the first 5 days. I was thinking of something. Oh, my mind just dribbling. Oh, now I remember. So remember when I was telling you about the propaganda that is now on Netflix that's now promoting pedophilia and glorifying pedophilia, but I couldn't think of the name of it right away.
Yeah.
The show or the movie is called Cuties.
Oh, for God's sakes. And they allowed something like this on Netflix?
Yeah, I'm not fucking shitting you. You can go on Netflix right now and look up Cuties, and when you watch it, I tried to watch it just to see if there really was pedophilia in it, and I can tell you right now, within the first 10 minutes, and you really see how everything is in Cuties, you'll be like, yep, that is pedophilia. After about 10 minutes, I had to turn it off and just not watch it because I was getting very sick and disgusted in my stomach. I'm just like, I don't care who you are or what you believe in. This right here, this is morally and ethically wrong. Not only is this glorifying pedophilia, it's making it very appealing through adult entertainment. Where, as I was telling you about some of the characters that are in this, where these are like full-grown obese men dressing up like fucking princesses, and some of these other trannies, they're fucking horrible and appalling for trying to ask like 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, or 12-year-olds if they know how to fucking twerk. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is not what you ask kids that are like 10, 11, or 12 if they know how to do this or even engage in behavior like this. Like, this is just sick and disgusting.
It reminds me of sort of what happened to the Roman Empire towards the end. They got perverted, and it's they're desensitizing. You see, what the freaks are doing is they're slowly, gradually desensitizing people to the point where the concept won't be as offensive and appalling if they let enough time go by of them brainwashing everyone. kind of like Nazi propaganda tactics. But
Hmm.
I'm really, I mean, um, with all the supposed neoliberals jumping up and down, screaming about everybody's rights, I'm really surprised that Netflix is forget about allowing them, that they made the decision to accept this. What is it? A documentary?
It's like a documentary show, or it's something. Yeah, you can just Google Netflix cuties, and just the sheer trailer of it. When you watch it, you will just be like, "This is just sick and disgusting."
It is sick and disgusting. It's like, I mean, trying to show a little girl how to twerk is disgusting. And
Hmm.
you know what I felt very uncomfortable with, that old reality show where they had the little girls in beauty pageants with a ton of makeup on, and wearing miniature dresses that an adult female would wear. And
Yeah,
the mothers would be forcing the little girls to participate in such a beauty contest, and the mothers would be like insanely obsessed with their daughter winning, and so competitive and yelling at them, yelling at the judges, and it was totally insane. It's like most of those reality shows. The one about the hoarders, the one about so on and so forth. But anyway, yeah, it's pedophilia. There's no doubt about that, and it's really terrible
yeah.
what's going on today.
It is absolutely terrible. But the next worst thing I've seen. Remember how I showed you the trailers for the Call of Duty Black Ops, and then when we saw the Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War trailer, well, guess what? We now actually get to see when this story is going to be taking place, and they released multiplayer gameplay. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, I am far, far from impressed with this game. So this is a direct sequel from the first Black Ops, but it takes place in the late 60s to the early 80s. And it talks about this particular part of the Cold War where a lot of stuff was going on covertly behind the scenes between the United States and the Soviet bloc. And you go to different locations. So there's going to be some locations here in the U.S. There's also going to be some fighting in Russia. We're going to East Germany, particularly Eastern Berlin. We're going back to Southeast Asia. So I think there's like one mission in Laos, one in Vietnam, and then one in maybe Cambodia. And then there's even some in Angola, in Africa. So we're going to be all over the world, but just the whole premises behind it, after seeing the trailer and all this, it's too latent in terms of propaganda that now you're not playing a video game just purely for entertainment. Now it's the point to where you are now dealing with real propaganda. And now you're playing propaganda. The entertainment value is still there, but there were some people would say it's just a game or it's just a show, it's just a movie. The Department of Defense and the CIA have had many different dealings and fundings of major films, major shows. Some examples, obviously, the Dark Knight series, where Batman Begins, the Dark Knight Rises, and then RoboCop. But the big one that really started making people raise the eyebrows was actually the Jaws movies. Because did you notice after that how the beaches were deserted and empty for so many years because of a pending fear of shark attacks? It was because of that movie. So, like I said, when people say, oh, it's just a show, it's just a game, it's just a movie, remember the CIA and Department of Defense have had a lot of dealings and a lot of different fundings with what goes on in Hollywood, not only for the movies, the shows, and now video games.
Yeah, well, it went from subliminal suggestion to blatant, obvious brainwashing, propaganda. You know,
Hmm.
gradually spoon feeding kids and older kids and young adults. And I tell you that Starship game, Starship Wars or whatever, that looked really good. I wonder if it's for they make it for PCs.
Yeah, it's on PC. It's a free to play game. I might play it. It reminds me a lot of a game uh, that one of my friends used to play, and I tried playing it. I could never really get into it. Called Space Engineers. It's a very similar process to something like this, but I don't know if I'll really buy it or play it. But when it comes to upcoming games, right now it seems like the whole gaming industry is just it's at a standstill. Like all the good games are already out. Like all the new stuff that's coming out is just it's terrible.
Yeah, they even have one where you can use towards for a person trying to get their pilot's license. A game where it's like you're realistically in a cockpit in a jet.
Yeah, Flight Simulator.
Yeah, yeah. But as far as like military games go, the Starship would be like a futuristic war, intergalactic
Right.
battling. You probably have shields that go up, and if you take a pounding, your shields start to weaken. Just like
Yeah, it sounds about right.
that's pretty much what happens in all the Star Trek movies. Yeah, yeah, the shields are strong, full power. What? After a while, they start to weaken. Oh, one of our shields is down. Then a part of the starship is vulnerable to damage. It's always the same scenario. I mean, what else can you do? You can't do
Not
anything.
really much of anything right now. Like I said, all the good games that were going to come out are already out, and I don't really foresee anything new or groundbreaking in terms of games really coming out. Call of Duty's been a brand that's been around for many years. Um, but back in the day, Call of Duty used to be a really fun game because my personal favorite was Modern Warfare 2, and they remastered it. The campaign where I showed you the terrorist attack that was the false flag terror attack in the Moscow airport. Yeah, that game. Like that whole Modern Warfare trilogy was fun. Um, and the first Black Ops they came out with was pretty fun, but seems like the last Call of Duty game that really came out that was fun was Call of Duty Ghosts, where it was very spec ops, behind the scenes, stealthy gameplay. And a lot of people hated Ghosts, but I thought it was fun. That was like the last one. Then they had the whole futuristic era of Call of Duty, which failed miserably. Now they're back to somewhat modern games, and it's just they've they've stuck to the core, but they've gone so experimental with certain things that it's ruined it. It's like now there's only a ghost hint of what Call of Duty used to be. Now it's just if I was to compare this new one that's coming out to an already existing game, it's like is this Call of Duty game trying to be another game called Battlefield? Because that's essentially the direction of which they're going. It's like now they're just kind of copying off of one another, and it's just there's no creativity, no originality, and it's just dead.
Hey, what was the name? What was the name of that futuristic game you have where you go to like other planets and you're fighting the enemy on other planets? Remember that you showed me a long time
Oh,
ago?
Halo.
Yeah. Halo. I,
Yeah,
you did Halo.
Halo's been out for a while. Yeah, Halo's been out for a while. I have the Master Chief Collection on computer. And I gotta say, it is fun. I remember playing the very first Halo. The first Halo came out in 2001 on the very first Xbox. And ever since, Halo has just been a fan classic. They came out with Halo 2 in 2004, 2005, somewhere in that area. Then Halo 3 in 2007. Then they had Halo 3 ODST, which was an expansion game for Halo 3. Then they had Halo Reach, which came out in 2010, which is a prequel to Halo. Then they came out with Halo 4. Then there was Halo 5, Guardians. And then this new one, I think, is called Halo Infinite. Really, the last good Halo game was Halo 4. 5 and this new one that's getting ready to come out, it's not a Halo game. It's something completely different. It bears basically no resemblance to Halo. It is visually and aesthetically appealing, but like I said, with all these other games, they've gone too experimental, and anymore it's the game that it's supposed to be with other games incorporated in, and not even the best aspects of the other games put into it.
I don't think you've ever done Halo on a Friday night.
Yeah, I can do Halo. It's not really one that I really play all that much. I've been meaning to want to play some more Arma, because that's really the one that I'm really having a ball playing right now. And I'm even thinking about hosting an Arma server where you can do like online multiplayer of it.
Yeah, because Arma's become a real challenge. It's not an easy game to master. It's tough.
Oh no.
The bounty hunter, the Wild Wild West was definitely much easier than Arma.
Oh yeah. And another reason why it started getting harder, because apparently they've now added in this new system to where if you do good, it levels you up to a higher level. And when I went into the settings, I'm like, wait a minute, this is not the settings I left it at. What it did was it took my difficulty from regular and it bumped me up to veteran. And I'm like, when I didn't want to play on veteran difficulty.
No, it just decided to shove you up there, and
yeah. And then I finally figured out how to fly the drone, and I got past the drone after mashing buttons and just trial and error. I figured out how to do it.
Yeah, because they didn't give you instructions about the drone when you make it appear. When you select it to appear, there was no instructions on how to get it off the ground. So you figured it out by trial and error, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, so I got it in the air, and I figured this out. There's different settings for different camera views. If you press in on the keyboard, it toggles between 3 different visions. You have regular, you have night vision, and you have thermal. So I was able to switch it to thermal, and if you press F after you scroll down on the mouse wheel to open up the weapon, if you press F, a laser pointer comes out. And when that laser pointer comes out, it indicates to your team where the spotters were, and I finally found them. The spotters were actually right behind us. I thought they were on the next hill over. No, if you were facing north in the town we were at, if you made a 172-degree turn to the right, and you look back up on the hill, they were buried up there in the tree line.
Oh, I remember when you first got the drone off the ground and it hit a big tree branch. I remember that. I saw the smoke. I saw a flash and a little smoke, and it was like poof. It went, and I saw the branch, but it happened so quickly. It just went poof.
I call that drone the drone of intrusiveness. Well,
he says, "Oh shit, I heard you." And
I finally got it. I got up in the air. I figured out how to fly it. I figured out how to finally operate it. So if someone needs me to use a drone, I can kind of sort of use a drone, but not really.
That was the Tree of Woe.
The Tree of Woe. Yep.
Took out the drone. That was
But
on
in real life,
Conan.
if you had a drone in real life and it did that, it would probably do more harm to the tree than the drone.
I'm surprised drones don't have a long range when they're fully charged. They're some say 15 minutes tops. That's not a lot. But I mean, if you're out to take video of something, like if you're a paparazzi and some famous person is having a like one time some famous entertainer was having a private wedding reception outdoors, and they managed to they really wanted to film it. I guess if people are preoccupied, you can sneak a drone in anywhere and get video.
Yeah, you can, but there's FAA regulations when it comes to flying drones, because I know here in Kingsport, when we'd have it's some kind of festival that we would have every year, but it was canceled this year. I think they're still going to have it on for next year. Oh, Kingsport Fun Fest. There we go, Kingsport Fun Fest. And the police are very anal when it comes to flying drones at the Fun Fest event. Because I think one year
They take away the fun.
No, they don't. They don't necessarily take away the drone. They just make you put it down. Because I think one year there was a mishap with a drone where it went up in the air and the batteries died and it landed somewhere, and it didn't hurt someone, but it scared the shit out of them. But to make sure it didn't actually hurt anyone ever again, that's when they decided to go ahead and go, no drones at FunFest.
I mean, I know it's funny unless the drone lands on your head, but it sounds. You know, what would be even funnier? I know it'll sound diabolical. If somebody took a low cost drone, not too big, and was able to put C4 plastic explosive on it with a timer, and have a kamikaze drone that goes boom.
Yeah, you could actually do that.
Kamikaze drone.
I would say probably you could do that in Arma, and here's how you'd have to do it. You'd have to find the drone and put some kind of detonation charge on it. But you'd have to have the actual thing on there and make it to where it doesn't fall off. And then when the drone gets to where it needs to go, then you click the C4.
Yeah, you got to put some shrapnel in there, for a little spice. You got to put some shrapnel.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. That actually sounds like a pretty funny idea for Arma. I should try it.
Like a bag of like nails, or something, just like in real life. Like you take it and you put it right up against the C4. I told you it was diabolical, and then because my sister, she dated this Green Beret dude that was in Afghanistan. He told me how much C4 could blow off the living room front door, and it wasn't a lot. It was like the size of a quarter, about the size of a quarter C4. He said, "It'll take your front door right off the house."
Right. Actually, did they add enough shrapnel or enough of a blast for the drone? You have to have probably two things of C4 or an anti-personnel or anti-vehicle mine. But if you really want to make a big explosion, anti-tank mine.
Oh, have a drone that could get up in the air with an anti-tank mine. You mean instead of the C4 or including the C4?
Right.
Anti-tank mine. Hey, you got something there, and it has to be a drone that wouldn't have any problem reaching its normal speed and elevation, and but can't be too big, because you want it to maybe fly it low so radar can't pick it up, you know, fly it at the right altitude, invisible to radar, and just go boom.
Yeah, it could work.
Jawohl. Jawohl. Okay. Do you think it's time for a little mysticism?
Yes, absolutely. Let me go use the bathroom and get the cards out, and we'll be ready.
Yes. I'll put up my avatar and a little intermission music. Intermission time, folks. Okay. Welcome, everyone. I just want everyone to know that progressive discussions can be seen on the web. We're on Tumblr, Facebook, YouTube. We used to be on Twitter before I started bucking heads with Twitter, but I'm trying to get my account, Progressive Discussions account, back on Twitter. Those scumbags. Corporate fascist censorship. That's why I lost my Twitter account. Let's see. We have a new Facebook page New Age, mysticism, and healing. So click like to it. Click like to the extremely informative Facebook page, Progressive Discussions. I have been doing progressive internet talk shows since 1995, and those shows are on the YouTube channel. Okay, everything is in playlists. I'm a very orderly person, and everything is in playlists according to the title of the playlist. It's all there, and you can tell which ones are archived. You can tell by the date and by the title. But I'm really, actually, this show used to be only progressive politics, but now we have incorporated mysticism. You will see any minute now, you will see the State of the Union tarot card reading by Damien the Dissenter Owens. Okay. Very unique, combining mysticism with politics. And after the tarot card reading, we will do some Q&A, some questions and answers with the copper divining rods. So as Damien Owens gets the cards ready, and he is here.
You laid them out.
And he is here.
Yep, I am here. Okay, so I went ahead, I've laid them out, and I've already got my first impressions with this particular reading, and they're showing something very interesting. So here we go. All right, so I've done the typical layout that I always like to do. So we have our situation, past, present, future outcome, and our connection cards. All right, so right now, the current State of the Union is being represented right here by the Seven of Pentacles. So right now, a lot of stuff that is currently going on and trying to find the solution to our problems that we're currently facing is definitely more economic based. But in this instance, where we've already had some ideas floating around, it's still in the process, but at least now we're starting to see the beginning of the solution to get us out of this mess. So what is coming to mind with this one is definitely the next stimulus package. There's probably going to be more stimulus on down the line at some point, or we have a massive economic recovery by people going back to work, or there's more money invested back into infrastructure, things like that. But definitely an economic based solution for what we're currently seeing right now. And we'll get into a little bit more as to why we're seeing that here in just a moment. So the past was being represented by the Queen of Wands. So the Queen of Wands has actually shown up previously, but now, since instead of it being in the position over here, now it's over here, this shows that it's been moving very fast. Now, with the Queen of Wands showing up here in the past, there were a lot of desires to want to do this, to want to do that. But now that we've actually seen it being taken place, it's now gone from here to here. But right now, the present is being represented again by the Knight of Pentacles. So what we're starting to see now is, like I said, the economic recovery, the best economic solution to get us out of this. And it is with the stimulus, but there's also some other economic factors that are at play that we just don't really see yet. But maybe we can see what happens when we go into our connection cards. All right, so next we have the Knight of Wands for the future. So I'm definitely seeing more action, more quick and decisive action that's going to be taking place here in the next little bit. And I'll explain a little bit more why, because it's being indicated by the tower card here, and that's definitely fitting. But at the same time, there's still more to come with it. So back to what I was saying. What people are doing now is they're organizing, they're coming together, they're figuring out the solution. And, like I said, it's going to be economic based, but then we're also going to have some desired based solutions as well. Now, what the outcome is going to be is the Two of Swords. So the real outcome of what all this is going to be is still really yet to be determined, but now we're seeing more things taking shape, and it's no longer in its infancy stage. We're now in the actual very early development of this, but still, we don't really know where it's going to go. It could go this way, it could go that way, it could go any number of ways. But so there's still too many unknown factors at play, but eventually they will come to light. Now, why has all this been brought on? Well, let's look at our connection card between the past and the present, the Tower. Now, other readings have shown that something was going to change in late August, early September. Well, that came true. What was when the CDC did that huge reduction in terms of COVID-19 deaths, to where only 9,210 people died of COVID as the primary source, but the other 94% was counted as either comorbidity or multi-morbidity. And that came as a huge sudden shock to people. That's usually what happens when the tower comes forward, is it's very quick, sudden, drastic change. Well, when the CDC released that threw a whole monkey wrench in this whole entire fraud and scheme that's been going on ever since February and March. And then now that we've got the reduction in cases, which they've also shown how the particular statistics in certain areas were exaggerated 15 to 1, 30 to 1, even in some instances 100 to 1. And it's really woken people up and really made people question, you know, what all has happened afterwards, where it's created far worse and far overreaching problems than this original one, that now we're starting to see all this take place. Now, let's look at this other connection card between the present and the future. It is, like I said, it's going to be economic based, it's going to be desire based, but now we have an emotion aspect to this as well, where people were so mixed in the beginning, and now people are even more mixed in terms of emotions as to what they previously were earlier. Now we begin to see that this has really messed people up mentally, that they're starting to question, if they've lied about this all along, then what else have they been lying about? And what really is the best way to go about it? But with the Seven of Cups here, they know what they want to do, but they just don't know how to do it. Because, like I said, we got so many economic factors, so many desire factors, and then now the emotion factors, that it's just, oh, they don't really know how to make heads or tails of anything. But our last connection card here between the future and the outcome, we have another card, which is interesting. We have the Seven of Cups, but now we have the Eight of Cups. With the Eight of Cups being the connection card between the future and the outcome, we got a long road ahead of us. This will be short. This will be long term, because it's going to take a long time for people to not only physically recover from this, but it's going to take an even longer time to recover from this emotionally as well as economically. But my overall impression is we're at least going in a good direction. Now that people are waking up and seeing things for what they really are, and are starting to be more open-minded and seeing things in different perspectives, and almost like taking the rose-colored shades off and really questioning, have I really been told the truth, or has everything I've been told really the truth? What I've been lied on, and this and that. So this is a big opportunity, and I've talked about it previously. This is the Great Awakening, but since we've not really had anything like this on this scale in human history, it's going to take a good while to develop. At least now we see how they're going to develop and why they're going to develop, but where ultimately it's going to go is still yet to be determined. But whatever comes out of this, I really have great feelings. So that's my State of the Union tarot card reading for this week. Next week there'll be another one. Who knows what they'll show, but it seems like more and more stuff keeps coming out, and more stuff keeps developing, and we're going in the right direction. Whereas previously we've been going in the wrong directions. Okay, there we go.
Okay, we are back. Very good. You have just seen the State of the Union tarot card reading by Damien the Dissenter Owens. Now, they on Tumblr, when I go on Tumblr, they put a lot more mysticism and the occult articles and advice and history and everything on there than they do on Facebook. And they get into the third eye. They get into spells, witchcraft,
Right.
psychic ability, clairvoyance. People use different tools to achieve their goals.
And my third eye stays open all the time now.
Yeah, it's like an app on a smartphone that you never log out. You don't log out. You just keep it open.
Yeah, I've tried to close it, and I don't know what I've done, but I've tried closing it. I've tried shutting it off. It just, my third eye will not close. It's like now I guess where I've become so accustomed to it that now it's now part of who I am.
Well, not all things should be left open. Like, for instance, portals. Never open up a portal that you can't close or you don't know how to close.
Well, this isn't really like a portal. This is just having an extra dimension in terms of your consciousness, being able to transcend the left and the right brain. But it is powerful. But, as I always say, with great power comes great responsibility. And another reason why I say that is I was actually talking with someone about the third eye, and the symbology of it has actually been around for many decades. Where they have the Eye of Horus in ancient Egypt. Yeah. And they call it the all-seeing eye or God's eye. Well,
there are Hindu gods that have a third eye right up here and on the forehead, in the middle. There's a lot of pagan gods that are depicted with the third eye. You're right.
Exactly. But in this instance, where now we have the third eye actually on our money, and how it's now been associated with the Illuminati, that's partly why the Illuminati and so many secret societies are so advanced in terms of their knowledge and how they're able to do so many great things. But here's where things have gotten a bit interesting. So the universe gave secret societies and gave certain echelons of society the power of the third eye, thinking that they would use it for good. Now, some people did use it for good, some people did use it for evil. But now, seeing how those in charge have used the third eye illumination for evil, that has been completely taken away from them and has now been given to other people, i.e., people like us. So it's kind of like the advancement in terms of the knowledge, the technologies, and all that have now been taken out of their hands and now given to us, and now to see if we can be able to handle this with great responsibility and great respect and care. It's kind of like the natural chromatic orders, they want to call it. What goes around comes around.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And what you're saying, it was right on this documentary I watched about. It was actually it was on Ancient Aliens, where they depicted they showed images of pagan gods from all over the world, from all religions, and many of them had a third eye. Many of them did have a third eye. So uh, tapping into the third eye is probably very well known and has its origins in ancient Hindu Sanskrit, a text, and also maybe even I don't know about Buddhism, but I know Hindu, the yogis and Hindu religion goes back, and their practices goes back farther than many civilizations, many cultures. And they mention not only the third eye, they mention, like the Sumerians, they mentioned the sky gods, which to the Sumerians were the Anunnaki, which happened to look just like the gods of Zoroastrianism in ancient Persia. And we're talking about way before like Babylon, Sumerians and everything. But yeah, the Hindus talk about a anti-gravity machine, a craft that was taught to them by their sky gods. Now everybody's talking about sky gods teaching them technology, trying to help the earthlings, and they thought they were gods. So that's, it makes a lot of sense to watch a great show like Ancient Aliens. Now, the thing with the occult on the Ghost Adventure and the Dead Files, mostly the Ghost Adventure program on a Travel Channel, there are too many kids today dabbling for recreational purposes in black magic and the Ouija board. Now, I know it's a patented toy. The toy company doesn't care. It could be Milton Bradley. I don't know for sure. But anyway, they just want to make money off it. And the kids are bored, and they think they're playing a game when they're reading from a black magic's book, trying to summon something. They think it's thrilling, it's cool, it's fun, but it's not. Because there are certain entities that choose to attach themselves to people, and they can follow you. Negative entities of all different sorts. Now, Amy Allen on the Dead Files, who is a physical medium, I believe, somebody asked her, well, what are the shadow people? Are they demons? She goes, no, they're not demons. She says, honestly, I think they're aliens, the shadow people. Now, when the shadow people appear and when they vanish, they could be alien beings traveling through dimensions, utilizing wormholes. Look, the Sasquatch vanishes just as fast as they appear, and they're 10 feet tall. Maybe they are of an alien species. Maybe all of a sudden, every large lake in the world has a prehistoric type of Loch Ness monster, a plesiosaur. Maybe there is a time portal in certain areas of the world where these prehistoric creatures appear and return. Like old sailors used to talk about seeing all these sea monsters and sea serpents, and now they're starting to reoccur in all bodies of water in different regions. Like there's one in Iceland, there's one in Alaska. They're all. My Uncle Phil saw one in the Chesapeake Bay right off his pier. He saw it for a few seconds and then it went right down into the water, left a big wake. It was like a type of Loch Ness monster, a plesiosaur. So maybe there's a prehistoric time portal. But I will say this: every week, people are showing more new videos of UFOs, not only coming from the ocean, but up in the sky and traveling in certain patterns in the same formation at speeds that no modern aircraft can achieve. And then they quickly vanish after they've been up there a while. And I saw them. I saw the shape of them. I saw the type of lights that were emitting from them, flashing. It was quite clear. And this is happening every year. Same thing with paranormal sightings in a home. Kid wakes up with deep scratches on the body. They put a hidden camera in the baby's room, and something was pulling the baby up in the air by the leg, by the ankle, and the baby was standing on the edge of the crib, like, which is really thin, standing, waving his arms around. And he was standing there like he was standing on the floor. There's a lot of things being documented with evidence. So you young people out there, don't mess with portals that you can't close, that you do not know how to close. And but there are positive things people can do too. There are
Right.
With the occult and with magic, with the third eye, certain crystals are helpful with the frequency they emit. Chakras, we all have auras called chakras.
Yeah, I've done all the different tests, and it says my aura is purple or like a violet indigo. So that's why I've been saying I'm one of the indigo children. However, I'm convinced that my dad has got to be around here somewhere, because I keep getting this very weird, strange smell that I've not smelled in a very, very long time. And it smells like coffee and cigarettes. That's what it smells like. Like a really strong coffee with cigarettes. But when you smell the coffee, it's not like a straight black coffee. It's like a dark roast with a lot of cream and a lot of sugar. But the cigarettes, you smell a vague hint of it, but it's not super strong. Because my dad, his main cigarettes that he liked to smoke were Doral Ultralights non-menthol. That's what he used to smoke. And when it's around and you smell it, it's always when it's like a trigger of some sort. Like when I either I'm thinking about my dad or my dad must be near me. These two things happen. Either My Little Man by Ozzy Osbourne is either playing or is getting ready to come up on a playlist, or Carry On My Wayward Son, just the beginning part of it, is either playing or is going to play. So my question is for the divining rods: is my dad still around? Is he like one of my guardian angels? Okay, so divining rods, what you're saying is when I smell the coffee or the cigarettes or have those triggers, my dad is around. Hmm. All right, I'm just trying to think of how to word it. So, is my dad my only guardian angel? Okay. Do I have multiple guardian angels? Okay. Um, would the other ones be his mom and dad? So my dad and his mom and dad are my guardian angels.
Yeah,
Interesting.
they call that ancestral beings. When they use the word ancestral in the occult, that means your close loved ones that pass away. You know, your family
All
tree.
right. So, divining rods. So, will I be getting some good news about my lawsuits here soon?
That's
Okay.
good.
So, will it be just one lawsuit? Will there be at least like two, maybe three, maybe four? Okay. So, when should I expect to hear this good news? Will it be within the next 1 to 3 months? Hmm.
Try to narrow it down.
All right. Will it be within the next month? Okay.
Well, you'll definitely know what direction it's going.
Okay. Um, so if it's good news, will the good news be that I have cases and can actually win the lawsuits? All right. Will it be from the attorney's firm or the law firm that I reached out to called Morgan and Morgan? Will they be the ones that bring me the good news? Took them a moment there. I guess they had to think on it for a moment. Okay. Now, divining rods, are there other external factors at play here, like intervention from my guardian angels?
Doesn't maybe it sounds. Let me. Yeah, ask it again. Ask it a second time.
All right. So, copper divining rods. So, the good news being that I have a case and that I'll win. Is there other external factors at play, like an intervention from my guardian angels?
Okay.
Hmm. Interesting.
Scratch myself. Um, will Mr. Owens' settlement be higher than he would expect?
Hmm. Actually, all right. So now that we got to think about that, I'm curious. So, will there be will the lawsuits be against my employer? Okay. So, will they also be against maybe local leadership as well as our particular governor of our state? Okay, now we're talking. Oh, all right. Now my last question I've got for right now is: will this be a very historically significant lawsuit or lawsuits? All right. So will they be historical, as in they will set forth a new case precedent and set forth new precedences?
Would
Okay.
they make the media?
Yeah. Will it make the media? Oh man. Now I've got even more questions.
Does this mean that Mr. Owens will fly at warp speed through law school? Yes.
Okay. So will this be like the calling to my real higher purpose? Hmm. Interesting. Interesting.
Your higher purpose. Does Mr. Owens' higher purpose include a future in politics?
All right. Or if for some reason I choose not to go into politics but want to remain in the legal realm, would that still be part of the higher purpose being like a very well, wow, okay. So would it be something along the lines of being a very historically significant attorney?
Interesting.
Hmm. Interesting.
Will the chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America in what is it, Johnson City?
Yeah, Johnson City.
Johnson City, will they display themselves as being sincere, genuine, real socialists? Okay, so in other words, they are will are they just mere neo politically correct neoliberal Democrats in fake red socialist clothing? No. You'll find out. You know.
Yeah, I'll find out. I'm just trying to think. Do I have any more questions? Oh, okay. Yeah, I just thought of one.
Okay.
Okay, so copper dividing rods. With what all that is currently going on as a result of this COVID-19 fallout, is this the beginning of the end of the New World Order?
Will there be many lies exposed to the American people in this 2020 campaign year? Will the dirt really come out of the wash for corruption and lies um, during the presidential debates?
Oh yeah, I could have told you that one.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. And will it be like a snowball going down an avalanche after the debates are finished? Yes. So in other words, it will be a lot of below the belt, hard hitting, um, just down and dirty politics. Yeah. Because is it because both major parties are corrupt, down and dirty? Yeah. So you have like two. You'll have like two rabid Wolverines attacking each other. Yeah, if
Mhm.
Wolverines ever get rabies, I don't even know. I know they're tough.
Right. Well, we have a visitor in here. One of the cats decided to come in and say hello. Let me go ahead and get her on here.
Yeah, cats are very much connected to mysticism and the occult.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah. This is my cat right here. This is my tortoiseshell cat named Pixel, who obviously is wanting to be the center of attention, but she's a bit too busy cleaning herself right now.
I saw Pixel in the other room under the bright light. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
like a calico.
yeah. No, she's a tortoiseshell, but she's a very dark tortoiseshell. Like when you look at her fur, I don't know how well you can see it, but she's very dark for a tortie.
Like
Oh,
the
now that I've given her love and attention, now she really wants love and attention.
she blends in camouflage wise with your fleece blanket.
Yeah. So I don't know how well you can see, but she's very dark. Usually, torties are like black, orange, and like tan or creamsicle. No, she is predominantly black, and she has a little bit of orange and a little tan. But like I said, overall, she's a very dark cat for a tortie. Now, there's been a lot of mysticism when it comes to tortoiseshell cats in particular. They're not a specific breed, they're a unique color scheme of cats. And another reason why they're not an official breed is because this particular type of cat is predominantly female. There are male torties, but because of the genetic makeup of female torties, if there's a male tortie, he's not a XY. He's an XXY cat, which means they're one out of every 3,000, and they'll be sterile, so which means they won't have the means to reproduce to make a tortoiseshell a particular breed. Now, they're a lot like calicos in the instance of torties are on this end of the spectrum, calicos are on the complete opposite end.
Yeah,
Um, there,
like
there are personality. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
like a mule cannot reproduce. You need a horse and a donkey. A mule
Right.
cannot reproduce. Now an authentic black cat with the yellow eyes, I believe, is not an actual breed. An authentic black cat which has yellow eyes, the Halloween cat, I believe, is not a specific breed that somebody could like look up on the internet and said, I want a Halloween cat, and and just order one.
Right. But the main mysticism about tortie cats is not only the rarity and how cool they are. Apparently, tortie cats are very inclined when it comes to seeing spirits and seeing things from other dimensions, and they're very sensitive cats. Because, like in Japan, uh, torties are very desirable cats to have, especially if they're out at sea. Apparently, it warns away the sea phantoms and the sea ghosts away. Now, when you get a tortie, every one of them are different, but there are some defining characteristics in terms of how they act. They act like complete divas and also alpha females at the same time. So they either get along really well with other cats or they don't get along with other cats at all. Like Pixel, she gets along very well with the other cats. And in fact, she loves to be around other cats. But she's a very pressing, demanding, on her term cat. So a lot of times you can go up to her and pet her and pick her up. She won't mind, but when she wants love and attention, she will do anything and everything to get it. Like, there's even been times where I've been on my tablet or on my phone here in bed, and she has literally knocked them out of my hand to get attention.
Well,
Now, well,
cats
that's
want
the alpha female,
cats want what they want when they want it.
right? Well, that's the alpha female part of torties. Now, the diva parts of torties is they are very particular and very picky about how they look. So, some of them are very obsessed with cleaning themselves, and they're very obsessed when it comes to when they like to get brushed. So, where she's a medium hair. She doesn't get mats all that much, and her fur does get thicker in the winter, and I can tell she's starting to get her winter coat. And the last thing that's a defined characteristic of a Tory is they have what's called tortitude, and they have it to varying degrees. The main thing the tortitude comes out is when they're very demanding and when they really want something. Now, on the opposite end of their tortitude is when they get really pissed off or they are just in a terrible mood. Good Lord. They will make all the noises and the sounds in the world. And they're very feisty. Now, Pixel right now is on her really best behavior, but when she gets feisty or when she starts playing, oh man. There was this one time that her and my wife's cat, the tabby named Gigabyte, when they were playing, Pixel got on top of Gigabyte and somehow he got free and they got up on their back legs and she just pile drove him to the ground and we heard so yeah, torties are interesting cats. Now when you put two torties together, anything can really happen. They either get along very well with their own tortie sisters or they fight like there's nobody's business.
Huh. Interesting. And it's interesting that they're just born by accident. They're not a breed.
Right, but where Pixel's such a dark tortie, my guess is one of her parents had to have been a black cat. Otherwise, she wouldn't have so much black in her. Because, like I said, a tortie has black along with tan and orange and creamsicle, but no, she's like, I would say 70 to 75% black, maybe 10%, or no, I think about it. Yeah, about 75% black, maybe about 20% like tan or creamsicle, and like 5% orange.
Interesting.
And the reason why I call her Pixel is whenever she's in a well lit room, you can see her. She has this little thing like right here on her nose, and it looks just like a little pixel. So that's why we gave her that name.
Oh yeah. The shape of a pixel, exactly. Divining rods, is that ghost hunting tool app that I have on my Samsung Galaxy? Is that genuine and does it work? Yeah. I was trying to learn how to use it. It looks like it's for real. Electromagnetic indicator if there's a spirit near you. So all I do is talk to it and it will record any spiritual entity, like questions and answers and stuff, and just conversation. Okay. Wonder if it has an Ovilus. Does it have an Ovilus feature? Okay. Yeah, the Ovilus is where the computerized device has like almost every word in the dictionary. There's basic conversation, and you ask questions, and the spirit forms sentences, and it talks with it like a computerized voice. Like you say, like,
oh yeah,
it's called.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, where they do it on Ghost Adventures. Yeah. I've seen them use that.
Yeah, like, is there a spiritual presence right now in this room with me? And it'll say yes or no. It'll say yes. What is your name? John. It'll give like an answer like that.
Right.
How did you die? And it'll say something like accident or me killed. It'll give like short to the point answer.
Right.
You know, and stuff like that. I guess Ouija boards kind of do that too.
Well, I have used a Ouija board. As long as you know the rules of the Ouija, you can actually have a very interesting and a very fun time. The main thing is you always maintain control of the planchette, the little piece that goes on the board. You
But-
always make Yeah, you always want to make sure that your fingers and your hands, under any circumstance, do not ever leave that.
Correct.
Now, it's okay to just keep one hand on it and have one hand free, but you never want to ever take your hands off of and just let it be free.
And
As long as you,
don't do it alone. Don't ever do it alone or at a graveyard.
I've done it. I've done it alone. That's actually one of the ones that's not true. Yeah, you can do it alone. Um, for me, whenever I would do it, I would always either attract either good or neutral spirits. I had one try to come through, but it never did.
Yeah. Don't forget to say goodbye at the end. You need
Yeah,
to
and sometimes if you have to, if the entity or the one that you're trying to talk to just will not leave, you can force it to say goodbye. Most people think you can't force the board closed. Yeah, you can. The moment, even if the planchette falls off the board just a little bit, if any part is still on the board, and you can force it to good and bye, the board is closed.
In other words, that's why goodbye is at the bottom. Okay.
Right, but sometimes, depending upon the size of the planchette, the bottom part will come off, but the top part will still stay on. But if you have to, if you force it to good and then bye, and you take it off immediately, and you don't leave it around, there's only a brief time by forcing it to goodbye that you have to shut it. If you leave it on, it'll open back up. But if you remove it immediately after saying goodbye, the board is shut. That's actually a myth where people say that it's not closed.
In other words, all right, before the planchette needle goes over a letter, a number, or yes or no, or goodbye, it revolves. The planchette usually does little circles. Now,
Yeah,
if you're on yes, and then you say, I'm getting tired, I want to call it a night, goodbye. Just say goodbye, close the portal, goodbye. And then
yep.
it goes to goodbye. Don't just, as soon as the planchette goes over goodbye, you let go of it and walk away. You let it wind down a little bit. In other words,
Well, some do, some don't. If you let it wind down, that actually can be a bad thing, because if you let it wind down and then take it off, it loses its like a spiritual connection. It loses like the potency in order to attract more spirits. But that's why, if you put it to good, you just kind of have to put good and then bye and then just do this. Immediately just take it off. And when you store it, you have to make sure that the board and the planchette are completely separate, and there is absolutely no way the two can touch while it's not in use. If that planchette's not on the board and you forced it goodbye, it is closed. It will not do anything. Now, some of the rules you have to follow. Of course, the don't do it alone. If you've never done it before, yeah, don't do it alone. Do it with friends or someone who's experienced.
it goes to good, and then bye. That there is no portal that, knock on wood, that is open.
Exactly.
Okay.
The main rules are: do not ask stupid or silly or disrespectful questions.
Yeah, like
The next,
Johnny Womack was asking stupid ass questions to the divining rods.
right. So you never ask, silly, stupid, or disrespectful questions. The next thing is If it starts going through all the numbers and all the letters, stop. Stop it immediately, force it goodbye, and take it off. Wait a while. Let that entity go away.
No, in
The
other
next,
words, it's like the entity is having had an overdose of caffeine, or it's playing with your mind. It's an
right, or it's trying to completely open it to where it can come through, because while it's open, there's only so much they can do. Like, it's opened up to a point, but it's only opened up for communication. So when it goes through all the letters and then all the numbers, or it starts doing the crazy eights, then what it's doing is it's basically opening up the board to where it's more than just communication, where they can actually come through the board and out into this world. But
so you let it go. You let the planchette go immediately.
well, you don't ever want to let it go. If it starts going through the letters, you can stop it,
You take
because if you can put your hand and put enough force on the planchette and forcibly stop it.
well, if you forcibly stop it, wouldn't it be a good idea to remove the planchette from the board until the negative entity departs?
Only after you say goodbye. Now, if you don't say goodbye and you take it off without doing that, eventually the entity will come through. It'll find a way to get through the board because it would still technically be open.
Uh,
So kind of think of it like a mirror, like a two-way mirror, where one side could look in, but the other side can't see it. So think of it like that. Now, when they are actually near the board, what they're doing is the board itself has subconscious energies, and it has a lot of frequencies surrounding it. So that's why, you can attract all sorts of different entities, because, like I said, there's so many different energies and frequencies that are on the board. And that's why you got to be very careful. Sometimes they will deceive you if you think you're talking to someone when in reality you're not. That's a good indicator to go ahead and close it. Now, I've actually been able to contact other people through the board. I've been able to specifically contact my grandma and grandpa, not on my dad's side, but my mom's side, and we're getting ready to go into some more rules on that one. They say you're not supposed to ask questions about the afterlife or God or heaven or hell. Depends on the entity. Um, some will tell you the truth, some will deceive you. Now, when I was asking the questions about my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side, I asked very specific questions that only they would know, or people that knew them, or only my family would know.
yeah, but
So I would
evil spirits, no.
do what?
Evil spirits, no,
Not as much as what you might think.
because they're like tens of thousands, or if not more, years old, and they're very highly intelligent, and
Well,
they can predict the
depends.
future too.
Well, it depends. Depends on which one you get. Because if you word the question in a very specific way that only, like I said, that only the people you were contacting, people that knew them, or people that were close in the family or family friends, that only they would know, and the questions were right, then you could begin to say, okay, maybe I really am contacted. But the first indicator, or the first time that they got an answer to the question wrong, I would immediately shut up, because you won't be talking to who you think you're talking to. And the big indicator was when I asked about how they died, and they spelled out exactly how they died, when they died, and then when I asked, where are y'all? And the answer I got from both of them was unknown. Like, they didn't really know where they were. But when I asked, are you all in pain and suffering? It immediately went to no, that they were not in pain and suffering. I said, are you all together and enjoying each other's company? It went to yes. So, according to that answer, they obviously weren't in hell, but wherever they were, They didn't really know it, but they were not in pain and suffering. So it kind of makes you wonder, what really do the dead really know?
I mean, there was no spiritual entity to explain to them where they were. Like, listen, you're in the spirit world. You're in one of the dimensions, which is uh, part of part of the more than one spirit realms. But there was nobody there to explain to them. They would honestly not know where they are. Um, uh, yeah, so I mean, but they weren't suffering, and they were enjoying the company of other family members that they knew, which is a good sign. Once the answers start getting suspicious, I guess that's a good time to close down the board.
Mm-hmm.
Say goodbye. Remove the planchette from the board after goodbye. Like if you say, "Who am I communicating with?" and it says something really super suspicious, like this is God talking to you. Goodbye, because if God would never lower himself to using a tool of the occult, or an archangel would never lower itself to using a tool of the occult. So,
Well, maybe not. And here's why I say that. You know how they say that 3 a.m. is the witching hour?
yep,
But
yep,
here's
yep.
another thing I also found out. You can actually attract certain entities and can actually attract certain people through the board at very specific times, and I'll elaborate. So apparently, if you're trying to contact someone through the board and they're one of your guardian angels, the best time to do it is either at 333, 444, or 555 because of the synchronicity and the numerology of the numbers. Now, that
Yeah,
also plays into, if you're trying to contact someone who's already passed away and you want to find that one person specifically, try to do it around the time of which they died.
that's interesting. So 333 would be 3:33 a.m.
Or PM, either or.
p.m. But you're right about the 3 a.m. being the prime bewitching hour. I mean that between 3 is prime. I think it's between 2 and 4. Like it doesn't vanish after 3. Like if it's 3:15, it doesn't go away. But 3 is like is the number one time, anything like that. Ouija board is not the original name of it. That's a patented name.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit board or the talking board or spirit board. I'm getting feedback from every time I talk. I wonder why. It's the
It's where I don't have my headset in.
Yeah, it's been around since ancient times. So this character decided to make big bucks off it. So he suckered Washington D.C. into giving him a patent because it answered questions of the patent officer that no one would know. Which is the question is, what is my first name? And the guy applying for the patent for the Ouija board did not know his first name, and it said his first name. It was right. That's how that happened. But it's been around. I mean, it's been around. It's an ancient tool. The pendulum is ancient tool also. You can tie anything with mystical value to any a sewing thread. You can use I think wax dental floss is the best. You can tie it to a piece of rock crystal. You can tie it to a piece of iron, because evil entities do not like iron. Anything negative hates iron. Like if you put iron nail on every windowsill, it would actually repel any negative entity from coming in the house. Things of that nature, or if you have a talisman. I know they hate salt, but you got to throw salt in the corners of every room and at the doorstep, the front door entrance. But it'll spin like a helicopter. It'll move just as fast as the divining rods, except the divining rods are interesting because people use them to find lost things, to find underground water sources to build a well. They called it dowsing. So I've always seen people like Appalachian people and people on farms using a tree branch, a little tree branch to look for something. And it's the same idea as the divining rods. But there's all different tools. Now, scrying would be what Nostradamus did, like crystal ball reading, but he used a bowl of water. Dark. It's got to be a dark bowl. Black would be the best. And you just meditate and gaze at the water, and if it's meant to be, you will see visions. You will actually see visions.
I'll have to try it. I'm just trying to think of, how really, in all honesty, it could work. But I did think of another question for the divining rods. Okay, so let's see here. So copper divining rods. So will the lawsuits go to court?
Oh, so that means you're going to have a little Perry Mason battle going on. It's not going to be settled out of court.
Okay. So what you're saying, divining rods, is it's not going to be settled outside of court.
Okay, so there's going to be a tooth and nail lawsuit. Yeah, because the pieces of shit that are in authority, they want to have their way.
So what part will be the longest part of the lawsuit? Will it be against my employer? All right, well, how about the others against local leaders in the state government? Will they be long? Ooh.
Oh, I wonder if the hospital can be held also liable for telling you and a person with a full-blown asthma attack that you had to put your mask on, otherwise you were not allowed in the ER.
Well, they still let me go back anyway. I guess maybe someone overheard or someone reprimanded her, but they put me on back without a mask.
All right,
no
all right,
problem.
fine, all right.
All right, well, let's see here. So divining rods. So will my primary care physician visit on the 16th go well? All right. So in the meantime, will I be going on something like FMLA or short-term disability? Okay. But it kind of shed a little bit more light. So I've got DoorDash. My wife also signed me up for a few other things like Bike Squad, Grubhub, and Instacart. So I'm still waiting for that.
There's Menufy. There's another one. Actually, if you went to the app store on your phone and you typed in food delivery, they'll all come up. They'll
right.
all come up.
Oh, and the other thing you were telling me about Waze, and I'll ask my next question is, when you said there's this other app called Waze, as I was browsing through the settings, so I've got my DoorDash app on my phone and I have it on my tablet. I have it on here for both. As I was scrolling through the settings here on my tablet, I was just kind of pulling around just to see what all options were available. And it gives you two options to find addresses for delivery. It gives you Google Maps and it gives you Waze. It gives you both.
WAZE, yeah. Yeah, what the Lyft and Uber drivers were saying is that Waze brings up anything bad that happened on a highway where you have to take an alternative route, like an accident, an oil, a gas truck, jackknifed, flammable, and anything that causes a traffic jam where you need to take an alternative route.
Yeah, I figured out how to do that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what other jobs I can do. I'm just going to be doing delivery services. But back to the divining rods. So, divining rods. Um, will I be going back to work at Ingles? Hang on, I've got a follow-up question for it. All right, so divining rods. Has has my employer done something they shouldn't have behind the scenes while I've been off?
Well, the fact that they don't give a shit enough to pick up the phone and say anything to you, that to me that like fortifies the lawsuit even more, because it builds up more resentment towards them.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's see here. Copper divining rods. Has there been any fallout at my previous place of employment as a result of what happened?
Oh, maybe some of your former coworkers took issue with wearing the mask for their whole work shift after they found out what happened to you.
Well, let's see here. So, copper divining rods. Has the fallout been amongst the employees? Hmm.
Yeah, employees versus management. Huh.
Hmm. Are there those that are my coworkers that are, very concerned about me since they've not really heard anything from me and I've not communicated with them? Okay, so at least some of my former coworkers do care. Now, has there been any fallout at the corporate office as to what happened? Hmm. Are they going to change their policy? Hmm.
It's possible. Like if you told just one of your coworkers that if they force you to wear the mask and your asthma gets worse, I'm gonna slap them with a lawsuit. I mean,
Well,
because you knew, because uh, talk, well, it spreads like the wildfire in California. You just have to say
well,
one person.
right. Well, whenever I turned in my medical leave for 2 weeks because of the doctor, um, people on the front end knew about it, but when I went back to the deli because I had to go to the bathroom and I was just walking back up front, apparently no one in the deli or any other department in the store knew about what happened.
Interesting. I guess they're
So
not.
I'm kind of curious as to why they're keeping it hush hush and trying to keep it under wraps.
I don't know, unless they're assuming that you may slap them with a lawsuit, which is going to happen anyway.
Hmm.
But
So divining rods, is that one of their fears?
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, it's pretty good. The let's see, Donald Trump making all kinds of ridiculous, asinine, stupid remarks about different things. Is he doing it out of arrogance because he knows he's been getting away with everything else? So now more and more from our government, from the two-party system, will be in your face as an American citizen. It's going to be more in our face, rubbed in our face.
Right.
And the New World Order will also rub everything in our face.
Okay, so will the New World Order fail and never take over?
Well, something's going to happen to cause
So,
all this.
all right, so will there be a New World Order takeover? Okay, so they won't take over, but they won't go down without a fight. Okay,
So,
so they're
so
not
what?
going to take over, but they're not going to leave without a fight.
And because we the people outnumber them astronomically, the only power they have is their trillions of dollars, right? Yeah. Wow.
All right, I don't know how well we talked about it in some of the previous shows, but yeah, Australia has now basically gone back to a prison colony and is now under UN martial law because the police there have been very brutally oppressing people, and now Facebook is doing mass censorship of just about anything and everything that's going on down there in Australia. They've got the police checkpoints all throughout the city. They've got all the police checkpoints throughout the countryside. And the big city that's really taken the brunt end of all this is the city of Melbourne. So people who that's kind of like when I sent you that funny meme where it said, "How do you like your 6 month trial of the New World Order?"
Well,
Well,
well, there's Melbourne, there's Sydney, and there's Perth. There's not too many. There's not too many cities in Australia, big cities.
mhm.
But I will ask an old friend of mine from 2012 who's an Aboriginal. He lives outside of Perth. He's 100% Aborigine, and he's a hell of a nice guy, and he's part of an Aboriginal civil rights organization because the Australians, of course, have been showing them terrible racism, displaying terrible racism, and they tried to enslave them when they brought the Botany Bay colony of inmates came over. Anyway, I will ask him what's going on in Australia because
Oh, it's not good, not even remotely close to good. That's like the blueprint for what's going to come for the rest of the world. But now that humanity has woken up to what's going on and starting to fight back, there have been massive protests and rallies in various countries throughout the world. Like some of the biggest rallies that have been happening because of the anti-lockdown, anti-mask, anti-all this BS have been in Europe and the United States. Like in Germany, in Berlin, it started off as a very small movement. I think only like 10,000, maybe 100,000 people showed up. Now it's millions of people showing up in Germany to attend this massive anti-lockdown, anti-mask, anti-COVID restriction. So it actually got really bad at one point, and this just goes to show you how pissed off and fed up people are throughout the world. At one point, there was an attempt to storm the German parliament building by the demonstrators. They almost did it.
That's where that in Berlin, where Merkel's
Yep.
offices.
They almost stormed the parliament building in Germany.
And how come we never really heard these things on the mainstream media in the United States? I noticed.
Because that's not part of the narrative they want to push.
And
Yeah, you've got.
And Facebook, Zuckerberg wants to censor all this.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you have that in Germany, in Spain, where they're kind of doing what's going on in Australia. There was one video where the police tried to brutalize the demonstrators and the protesters. The protesters fought back. The police tried to beat him with batons and riot gear. Oh, that didn't go over very well.
Well, you know, when France had rioting that time, they were turning over a lot of police cars, setting them on fire. They were over something similar, like the form of government that was running France was kind of fascist, and the people didn't want it. And,
yeah,
and they rioted, and they get more. It's not like over here. The riots over here were by a bunch of dumbass ghetto punks, you know, without any intelligent plan or leadership behind it. They just started destroying things, vandalizing and stuff, looting.
Yeah, they did that, but also in Australia, there's true horror stories that are coming out where the police in Victoria, which is where a lot of this is happening, because it's not really going on in Sydney or Perth. It's only really going on in Melbourne in the state of Victoria. That this woman just spoke out about what's been going on, where she said that this is crazy, this is insanity, this is just going too far with all these restrictions. The police showed up to her house, busted in her door, and arrested her.
For having an opinion.
Yeah, for having an opinion.
Well, that's fascism.
So, yeah, that's fascism, and that is martial law. No matter how you want to put that into perspective, if the police bust down your door and arrest you, and mind you, this woman was getting ready to go to an ultrasound because she was pregnant, and they still bust down her door and arrested her. And they're doing massive arrests and massive crackdowns in Australia over this. So that's the blueprint for what's to come for the rest of the world. They keep pushing.
Hey, divining rods is fascist martial law taking place in the country of Australia as well as some parts of Europe. But the Germans were tough enough to resist it. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the UK has well. That British guy that you and I like, David Icke, he had like a massive rally in London, and lots of people showed up. And oh man, there was actually an instance where like thousands upon thousands of people just took off their masks and just went to the beach in the UK. Ignored all the recommendations, ignored everything. They just went. They had a good time.
Well, their prime minister is kind of goofy, like Trump. He's got the messy blonde hair.
Oh yeah, Boris Johnson. Oh,
Boris Johnson.
I'll tell you something funny about Boris Johnson here in just a moment. So thousands of people stormed the beaches to just go have a good time. You know, they weren't causing a ruckus. They were just people going to the beach, socializing, having a great time, and the police declared it an emergency. But when they actually tried to implement a plan to stop it, they said, we can't, because all they're doing is just going to the beach, and plus, there's just too many of them. We couldn't even remove them all from the beach, even if we tried.
The masses, the asses of the masses.
Right, but old Boris Johnson, he actually made an appearance on this show, and I've sent you videos of, called Top Gear UK. He actually made an appearance in the show, and they used to have this segment called A Star in a Reasonably Priced Car. So they would invite various people who either lived in the UK or lived in other countries throughout the world, and they would interview them, and then they'd go through a lap on their track in the test car. Well, one of the people they invited on was Boris Johnson, and needless to say, not a lot of people were very happy with Boris Johnson, because they realized that this man is extremely hypocritical. He's a lot of the types of the pot calling the kettle black. So when they made the appearance, and the presenters would ask him various questions and kind of expose him in his lies and hypocrisy, they made an ass of him, and it was kind of funny.
He sounds very familiar, folks. Boris Johnson, and so he's he's very cartoonish for those that are not familiar with him, and he's very, I assume, very right wing, from what I hear. That was before
in the UK, where they have a parliament. Oh, what I was getting at is in the UK, there's a variety of different parties, and their definitions of what is liberal and what is conservative is somewhat in line with the US, but at the same time, kind of not. So you have your very right-wing party, which is what they nicknamed the Tory party. Call it, but you've got the Tory party, which is very right wing, and then you've got like some odd conservative party, which is like, it's right wing, but it's not like moderate right, but it's not far right. It's kind of like, it's right wing, but it's not really either way to one degree or another. Then you have what's kind of like their moderate right party, which is they call it the UKIP party, the UK Independence Party. That's more of a moderate right wing party. Then you've got your left wing parties. You've got of course, your Liberal Party, and then they have this one party. I can't think of the name of it, but it's like a moderate left party, and they have this other party that's very left, but it's not a socialist or a communist party. It's like I can't think of the name of it right offhand, but it's basically the equivalent of our politically correct social justice warriors.
You ever watch their parliament? They really duke it out with each other.
British, yeah,
British
yeah, they do.
They definitely do. It's sometimes it's quite comical, but they go at it. Do they still wear those powdered wigs?
Oh, that is a good question. Honestly, I don't know if they do. I really don't.
They stopped that. I'm still having flashbacks of when I watched that colorized Three Stooges episode called "Disorder in the Court." I put it on my profile. That was hysterical. But anyway, yeah, the powdered wigs, yeah. But anyway, they're very eccentric. They're politicians.
Mm-hmm.
When you put them all, and they start debating. But anyway, it was a very hey, every show is very hard hitting and unique. And
right.
I mean, every show. I'm happy that every show is different, but we always walk away with a pretty revealing, educational, and often controversial show, and very unique too. Like today, we really sank our teeth into mysticism and the cards, great tarot card reading, current politics, a lot of good stuff. So I'm going to see if I can rustle up a bite to eat, and then I'm going to go on the phone, and I'll probably see you over there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in there and probably grab me a quick bite to eat. And I don't know what I'm gonna play. I might just listen to music. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, it's well, when they said order in the court, Curly says, "I'll have a ham sandwich." Yeah, that's just one tiny. That's just one tiny little bit of joke. Take the stand. Curly picks the chair up. Well, what do I do with it now? What do you want me to do with it? No, take the stand. I got the stand. What do you want me to do with it?
Oh no. Oh no.
They called the judge Judgy Wudgy. It was freaking fun. No, I mean, it was like, but it was interesting seeing it, with high definition color added to it. It was, I've never seen it before like that, but it was like nonstop witty humor and crude humor. I mean, crude being like when somebody slips on a banana peel and people laugh, that kind. I don't mean sexual, but anyway, I'll see you over there.
Nice, see you over here.